Felix had always been wealthy, but he had never found true love. Tired of people only being interested in him for his money, he came up with a plan. He would pretend to be a blind man in hopes of finding someone who would love him for who he was, not what he had. One evening, he sat in a cozy bar, pretending to read a book with his cane by his side. A beautiful woman, Victoria, walked in and took a seat near him. Felix felt his heart race and decided to take a chance.
"Excuse me, miss. Do you happen to know what time it is?"
He asked in his best imitation of a blind person's voice. Victoria, feeling sympathetic, checked the time on her phone and replied. "It's 7:30 p.m.
"Thank you, my dear."
Felix responded, grateful for her help.
"May I buy you a drink as a way of saying thanks?"
Victoria smiled, flattered by his offer. "Sure, I'd love that," she said, taking a seat next to him. They began talking, and Felix found himself drawn to her intelligence, wit, and kindness. They spent the evening discussing their interests and dreams. As the night came to a close, Felix took a deep breath and said,
"Victoria, I have something to tell you. I'm not really blind."
Victoria's face fell, feeling deceived. "What? Why would you do that?" she asked, her tone angry. Felix explained.
"I wanted to find someone who would love me for who I am, not for my wealth."
Victoria took a moment to process this. "Well, I can understand that. But I'm sorry, I can't continue seeing you." Felix was disappointed but understood her decision.
"I appreciate your honesty. Take care, Victoria."
Little did he know, fate had other plans. As Felix sat in the bar, lost in thought, another woman caught his eye. Her name was Rachel, and she was a kind-hearted woman with a bright smile and a gentle demeanor.
"Excuse me, miss, do you know what drink this is?"
Felix asked, holding up his glass. Rachel laughed softly. "It's a Manhattan cocktail," she replied. Felix smiled, impressed. They struck up a conversation, and Felix found himself enjoying her company more and more with each passing minute. Finally, he worked up the courage to ask her out.
"Rachel, would you like to go out with me sometime?"
He asked, holding his breath. Rachel hesitated for a moment, but then shook her head. "I'm sorry, I can't," she said, looking away. Felix felt his heart sink.
"May I ask why?"
He said, trying to keep his voice steady. Rachel turned to face him. "It's not because you're blind," she said gently. "It's because I'm already seeing someone." Felix felt a sense of relief wash over him. It wasn't a rejection because of his blindness.
"I understand. He's a lucky man."
He said with a smile. Rachel blushed, feeling flattered. "Thank you. You're a kind man, Felix." Felix smiled at her.
"Thank you, Rachel. It was a pleasure meeting you."
As Rachel left the bar, Felix couldn't help but feel hopeful. Maybe there was someone out there for him after all. Days passed, and Felix went about his daily routine, but he couldn't stop thinking about the beautiful woman he had met at the bar. As he was walking through the park, lost in thought, he heard someone calling his name. "Felix, wait up." He turned around to see Victoria running towards him, breathless.
"Victoria, what brings you here?"
He asked, surprised. "I wanted to talk to you." "I made a mistake," she said, her eyes pleading for forgiveness. Felix was taken aback by her sudden appearance.
"What kind of mistake?"
He asked. His heart racing. "I was wrong to judge you based on your appearance. I realized that I had been too quick to reject you. And then, I found out that you're a billionaire, and I felt even more foolish for not giving you a chance," Victoria said, her voice trembling. Felix couldn't believe what he was hearing.
"Victoria, I'm not interested in someone who only cares about my wealth."
He said, his voice firm. I know, and I'm sorry. But please, Felix, just give me a chance. Let me make it up to you," Victoria pleaded. Felix thought for a moment. Despite feeling hurt by Victoria's earlier rejection, he couldn't deny the attraction he felt towards her.
"I appreciate the offer, Victoria, but I don't think it's a good idea. I don't believe our values align."
Felix said, trying to let her down gently. Victoria looked disappointed but understood. "I understand, Felix. I'm sorry for the way I acted before. I hope you can forgive me. Felix smiled kindly.
I do forgive you, Victoria. Take care of yourself.
As Victoria left the park, Felix stood back, feeling content with his decision. He realized that he didn't need someone who was only interested in his wealth and status. He wanted someone who would accept him for who he was, regardless of his financial situation. Feeling hopeful once again, Felix continued his search for true love. One evening, Felix walked into a cozy bar, carrying a white cane and pretending to be blind. He was tired of people only being interested in him for his wealth, so he wanted to find someone who would love him for who he was. As he made his way to the bar, he heard a woman's voice ask, "Can I help you with something?" Felix turned towards the voice, playing along with his act. "Yes, please. Could you describe the menu for me?" he asked, trying to sound as convincing as possible. The woman, Esther, kindly described the menu to him, and they struck up a conversation. As they talked, Felix found himself drawn to her kind nature and gentle voice. They spent the evening chatting and laughing, and before he knew it, the bar was closing. As they prepared to leave, Felix gathered his courage and said,
Esther, I had a great time tonight. Would you like to go out with me again sometime?
Esther hesitated, feeling a bit unsure. "I don't know," she said, her voice trailing off. Felix knew he had to come clean.
Esther, there's something I need to tell you. I'm not actually blind.
He said, hoping she wouldn't be angry or upset. Esther looked surprised, but didn't seem to mind. "Oh, I see. Why did you pretend to be blind?" she asked, curious. Felix explained.
I wanted to find someone who would love me for who I am, not for my wealth.
Esther smiled kindly. "Well, Felix, I appreciate your honesty. Let's exchange addresses and meet again. But this time, let's skip the act, shall we?" she said, holding out her hand. Felix was overjoyed that she didn't reject him right away.
Thank you, Esther. I promise, no more acting.
One sunny afternoon, Felix and Esther sat at a small table in the same bar where they had met. They had been seeing each other for a few weeks, and things were going well. As they chatted and laughed, Felix suddenly said,
I'm sorry, Esther. I think I'm out of cash, and I don't have any money to pay for the taxi back home. I'm not sure how I'm going to get back home.
Esther frowned, concerned. "Don't worry, Felix, I'll give you the money for the taxi," she said, reaching for her purse. As Esther fished out a few notes from her purse, Felix couldn't help but feel a little guilty. He had been testing her to see if she was interested in his money, but he was surprised and relieved that she was genuinely kind and caring.
Thank you, Esther. You're very kind.
Felix said, taking the money and slipping it into his pocket. As they left the bar, Esther offered to walk Felix to the taxi stand. As they walked down the street, Felix suddenly stopped in front of a sleek car parked at the side of the road. Esther looked surprised. "Felix, is that your car?" she asked, amazed. Felix grinned.
Yes, it is. I just wanted to see if you would still be kind to me even if I didn't have any money.
He admitted, feeling a little sheepish. Esther laughed, shaking her head. "Felix, I like you for who you are, not for your money or your car. I would still be kind to you even if you didn't have anything," she said, smiling warmly. Felix felt a wave of relief wash over him. He had finally found someone who loved him for who he was, not for his wealth.
Thank you, Esther. You're amazing.
He said, feeling grateful. As they stepped into Felix's luxurious parlor, Esther was in awe of the grandeur of the room. She had never been in such a grand space before. "Felix, your house is beautiful," Esther exclaimed, looking around in wonder. Felix smiled, feeling a sense of pride as he looked at Esther admiring his home.
Thank you, Esther. I'm glad you like it.
He replied. They sat on the plush sofa, enjoying glasses of champagne and chatting about their future. Felix knew he wanted Esther to be a part of his future, but he was nervous about how she would respond to his proposal. Taking a deep breath, Felix got down on one knee and pulled out a small velvet box from his pocket.
Esther, I know we haven't known each other for long, but I feel like I've known you my entire life. You're kind, beautiful, and everything I could ever want in a partner. Esther, will you marry me?
Esther was taken aback by the sudden proposal, but she knew in her heart that she wanted to spend the rest of her life with Felix. Tears filled her eyes as she nodded. "Yes, Felix, I will marry you." Felix beamed with joy as he slid the beautiful diamond ring on her finger. They embraced, lost in the joy of the moment. As they sat back on the sofa, sipping their champagne and basking in the excitement of their engagement, Felix knew that he had found the love of his life in Esther. When it comes to true love and money, it's important to remember that love should always come first. While financial stability can be important in a relationship, it should not be the sole focus or driving force behind it. It's important to find someone who loves you for who you are, not just for what you can provide financially. True love is built on trust, respect, communication, and shared values, rather than on material possessions or wealth. It's also important to be honest and upfront about your financial situation with your partner. Whether you have a lot of money or very little, being open and transparent about it can help prevent misunderstandings and build a stronger foundation for your relationship. In the end, it's not money that brings happiness, but the people we love and the experiences we share with them. So, focus on building genuine connections with those around you, and the rest will fall into place. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video as much as we enjoyed making it. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our next video. We'll be sharing more interesting content and engaging topics that we know you'll love. And, if you have any suggestions for future videos, please let us know in the comments below. We're always looking for new ideas and ways to improve our channel. Thanks again for your support, and we'll see you soon in our next video.